Higgins has the call.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Well, this government has not only taken this full brunt of this crisis on the chin, it has delivered the outcomes that every Australian needs and requires. And that has been from the very start of this pandemic. In fact, Mr Deputy Speaker, what I would say is what is quite extraordinary about this pandemic is the daily, ongoing onslaught of COVID right across the world, not just here in Australia, but right across the world. And the fact that we have dealt with this dual health and economic crisis in such a good way is something that all Australians should be proud of. And we should be proud of it because we understand that it's an executive government that has taken the right decision each and every step of the way. Whether it's been aggressive suppression of COVID. Now, you don't get to aggressive suppression of COVID unless you have masks, PPE and sovereign supply. Done. Whether you have enough tests, COVID tests, sovereign supply. Done. Whether you've had enough mental health support to make sure that those can keep going. Done. To make sure that we've had the economic supports in place to secure unemployment rates the lowest in over a decade. Done. To make sure that JobKeeper, $84 billion, has helped support jobs and businesses survive what has been effectively the Great Depression and the Spanish flu coming at this country at speed. Done. Cash boost flows of $39 billion. Done. We've got so many things that we've done to make sure that this Australian economy and the Australian healthcare system has kept going and kept doing what it does best, which is supporting Australians each and every day. Now, Mr Deputy Speaker, the way the other side goes on, you wouldn't think that we delivered all these things, because what the other side are very good at is talking down Australians, is talking down the Australian economy, is talking down the Australian response. And what I am very proud of is that despite the fact there have been twists and turns that the COVID pandemic has blown at us each and every step of the way, is that this government has stood firm and has made the right decisions. It has made the right decisions that have been strategic, have been effective and have delivered. And I think all Australians should be very confident in the decisions that have been taken, whether it was early on in the pandemic when we closed our borders internationally, or whether it was early on in the pandemic when we took steps that no other country was taken. And in fact, steps that were brave, were strong and that were certain. Now, the other side is all about talking down the response of this government, and that is actually on the edge of dangerous. In fact, I believe it's irresponsible, because when people hear there's difficulties with the COVID vaccine rollout, some people understand that there's been a supply issue, there's been a side effect issue, issues that are well beyond the control of any government. Absolutely, because we had a diversified portfolio of vaccines. We knew early on that actually, well, we had Pfizer, we had AstraZeneca, Moderna, they're all coming online, Novavax coming online, and it's coming online next year because the pharmaceutical company itself has to get through some regulatory hoops that it has to deal with over in the United States. So we know that we've had a diversified portfolio, but more than that, we knew that we would have to have sovereign supply because we had difficulties with PPE and masks and tests early on, and the Minister for Hunt should be congratulated for the magnificent work he's been doing with securing supply in a very difficult international scenario. This is not an Australian problem, this is a global problem. But Australia has navigated through the storm of the COVID pandemic with a great sense of determination, and the Executive has been working in a strong and certain way, each and every way, to make sure that Australia comes through this in the best situation possible. And we know that when we look at the COVID vaccine rollout with the mocking from the other side is not helping. We need a moment when we come together and realise that we are now delivering a vaccine rollout at speed. We have 14 million vaccines that have been delivered. Yesterday was a record day. 260,000 vaccines have been rolled out yesterday. Australians are getting forward, putting their arm forward and getting that vaccine jab because we know that is the best way we can move to the next phase. And the Prime Minister has led a country that has had to deal with a lot of different problems, and he's done it by bringing together the National Cabinet. And yes, it has been difficult working across different levels of government. The National Cabinet has helped to make that as smooth as possible. But we all know that when decisions are very difficult, it can be complicated. There can be a lot of noise and friction, but at the end of the day, Australians want people to come together. And those opposite keep talking down the vaccine rollout. It is not helping vaccine hesitancy. I'm pleased to hear that young people are now putting their arm forward for AstraZeneca. That's a great thing because both AstraZeneca and Pfizer and now Moderna are going to help deliver a vaccine rollout for this country. Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker.
The member for Bruce